Now let's look at what happens with general trinomials, but this time with a negative on the back and still a leading coefficient of 1. It'll help for us to start by remembering how we multiplied binomials with different signs before, like the ones that are here, x minus 2 and x plus 3. Let's take the first terms, x times x, to make x squared. The outside, x and positive 3, multiply to make positive 3x. The inside, negative 2 times x, made negative 2x. And then the last, negative 2 times positive 3 with different signs, that gives us a negative result. So if we have different signs in the parentheses, we're going to get this negative back at the back. Now, when we're determining what the middle is going to be, looks like when we put together 3x minus 2x, we are subtracting this time. 3x minus 2x gives us positive x as the result. The sign in the middle is determined by the larger product when we compare outside and inside things. The larger product, 3x, it's bigger than 2x, so we take the sign of that 3x, which was positive. Let's look at another example. Here, x plus 2 times x minus 3. Again, with different signs, we're going to get a minus at the back. But this time, as we subtract what's in the middle, minus 3x plus 2x, we end up with a negative x for the result. The larger product was the 3x from the outside things, and it had a negative sign, so that's the sign that we'll put in the middle. Now, let's think about how this helps us with factoring. Here, x squared minus x minus 12. First, we look to see if there's something that's common to everything. There's not. Next, we count the terms, and there are 3. Boy, I hope it's a perfect square trinomial, but it is not. I know that it's not because in the middle, negative 1 for this coefficient is not an even. Here, there's not a positive, and back on the back, that's not a square. So it failed 3 of the things that we had to have happen. This tells me that we'll put down 2 sets of parentheses and do a binomial times a binomial. How do you make an x squared from the front? X times x will make that x squared. Now, this time, with the minus sign at the back, our signs in the parentheses are going to be different from each other. When they are different, I would recommend that you leave them as the very last thing to do, and that'll keep you from making a sign mistake. So let's skip over the signs for now, and let's just think of things that multiply to make the 12 at the back. How can I get 12? 12 times 1 would do it. 6 times 2 would do it. 4 times 3 would do it. I've systematically listed the possibilities, so I know these are the only things that can do it. 1, 2, 3, here's 4. That's going to be everybody. Now, we noticed a minute ago when we were multiplying that if the signs are going to be different, then the numbers need to subtract to be our coefficient in the middle. Let's look at how these subtract. 12 minus 1, they subtract to be 11. 6 minus 2, subtract to be 4. 4 minus 3, subtract to be a 1. That's what we need. We don't want it to be positive, but we are going to need a 1 in the middle here for that coefficient. So let's choose 4 and 3 to be our factors. Now, how are we going to make it have the right sign in the middle? The sign in the middle comes from the larger product when we compare outside and inside. If we multiply 3 and x on the outside, that gives us 3x. If we multiply 4 and x on the inside, that gives us 4x. Who's bigger? 4x is bigger. So the 4x needs to have the sign that is here in the middle of our problem. To control the sign, I can change the sign of the 4. I cannot change the sign of the x. So let's make the 4 match the sign that was in the problem. Let's make the 4 negative. If the 4 is negative and they have to be different to get the negative back at the back, then that means the 3 has to be positive. Let's take a second to check to be sure that we've got the right product in the middle. The outside things made positive 3x. The inside things minus 4x. 3x minus 4x gives me negative x, so we've got it right. Here is another one. This time, not a perfect square trinomial, nothing is common. I'll put down two sets of parentheses. X times x is how we get x squared, so let's start each set of parentheses with that. I see that I'll have different signs again, so I'm going to leave the signs as the very last thing, and let's think of ways to multiply to make a 24. 24 and 1 could do it, 12 and 2 could do it, 8 and 3 could do it, 6 and 4 can do it. 5 is not a factor, so this is my list of factors systematically listed. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5's not a factor. Here's 6. I've got all the possibilities. With different signs, that means we'll have to subtract to be able to get the 5 in the middle. 24 minus 1, they subtract to be 23. 12 minus 2 subtracts to be 10. 8 minus 3, that subtracts to be 5. So those are the things we're going to want. Let's put an 8 and a 3 in our parentheses. Now again, how will I determine what signs need to go in each set of parentheses? The product, the larger product, when we compare outside and inside, that gives me the sign that is in the middle. I want the larger product to be positive. If we multiply the outside things, we get 3x. If we multiply the inside things, we get 8x. Who's bigger? 8x is bigger. So the 8 needs to have the sign that is in the middle of our problem. Let's make the 8 positive. If the 8 is positive and they need to be different to get the negative back here, that means the 3 needs to be negative. Let's check it and be sure we are right. No need to do the F part of foiling or the L part of foiling. All we have to do is the outside things minus 3x and the inside things plus 8x and see if those add up to be 5x. Minus 3x plus 8x gives us 5x, so we've got it right. When there is a minus sign at the back, that tells us the signs in the parentheses need to be different. They will have to subtract in order to get the number that is the middle coefficient for our problem. So as we look at the problem, when we see that minus at the back, let's leave the signs for the very last thing, figure out what numbers need to go in, and the larger product comparing outside and inside will give you the sign that is in the middle.